It's been over 15 years since Kansas won 10 games in football, and even though they're supposed to be good this year, College Football 25 has them as an 81 overall in Dynasty. I also took a closer look at their roster, and after all of these seniors leave, this team is in some serious trouble. There's a reason the last 10 years at Kansas look like this, so I'm creating a recruiter head coach, and I'll be rebuilding them for the next 5 seasons. I've also brought back the challenges list, where if I don't complete all 5 of these by the end of the 5-year rebuild, I have to give away one final copy of College Football 25. The total for that is very close to 50, and just looking at our team needs, we have 27 seniors that we're about to lose, and that's not good because at positions like wide receiver, we only have 2 players that are going to be on the team next year. Guys like Keaton are only a normal Dev 2, so I'm a little bit worried, but I still found a bright spot on this roster, and that's freshman quarterback Isaiah Marshall. Not only does he have impact development, but he's going to be redshirted this year, so we should have him for the entire rebuild, and with his 88 speed, I'm not too worried about finding a QB in this class. All I want to do is get a lot of wide receivers. My favorite of the ones I found is Adrian Rich. He has 94 speed and he's also a gem. So if we can get him, his development should be good, but just looking at these Big 12 projections, we're supposed to finish 8th in the conference. Since we're ranked in the top 25, I'm not sure how that works, but I'm about to just send the house on all the prospects I want to go after. And that's what you should do on every prospect up until about week 3 when you hard sell, but with 700 hours to spend, we can do this on 14 different players. This rebuild's also nostalgic for me because my first face cam rebuild on this channel was with Kansas, so I feel like I have to do them right with this rebuild, with our first game being against an FCS school. I felt pretty comfortable simulating it, but we only won by 7 points. And Jalen Daniels did not play well with 2 turnovers. That means we should probably step into this one versus Illinois. But first we have to talk about recruiting, where not only are we getting some deal breakers for brand exposure, but we're also losing some of these battles because schools like Georgia are just better. I mean, these school grades aren't bad, but when it comes to stuff like brand exposure, we need to play on national TV more, and it's also going to cause a lot of guys to want to transfer out. That is not ideal because, again, I only have 5 years to complete all these challenges, and it's on the hardest difficulty, with it also being on the slowest Coach XP setting. I really don't know how this is going to go. I haven't gone down the recruiter skill tree much. I have 15 coach points to spend though, and just seeing how we're already losing a lot of battles for these wide receivers, I need to be able to put more points on them, so that's why we're going to unlock tier 3 always be Cruton, which allows us to do that. Having 65 hours on players like Chester Carey could be the difference that gets them to actually become a Jayhawk, and I sorted our board to put all the wide receivers together, where you can see that we're going after 5 different ones. We have to sign 6 of them, so that's only a start, but now it's time to play Illinois, and if we're ever going to have a chance to have a 1,000-yard rusher, I feel like it has to be with Devin Neal. I mean, he's the best running back this program's going to see. That spin move is insane. It's almost like Judkins, and out of Wildcat, he's going to score on the second play. Never mind, apparently he was down at the 1-yard line, but we're still going to be able to just punch this one in, and I think I'm going to have a ton of fun using him. We have an opportunity to go up by 10 points, and our kicker is just going to hit it, but unfortunately, our defense has not played well as we've given up 17 straight, and it's continued to go downhill from there, so going into this 4th quarter, we're going to need to make a big comeback. Our offensive line is holding us back though, and I thought I was going to be doing just fine with Kansas, but I haven't been. With a few minutes left, this drive is pretty much our last shot at even having a little bit of hope. And not only is Devin Neal good at running the ball, he's also good at catching it. On 3rd down, we're going to hit him, but after that, we couldn't score again, so we're going to lose. I never thought I'd see the day where Luke Altmaier would beat me, and I'm just thankful that the only players that want to transfer out are these 4. Now, there are some prospects that I can already tell are going to come down to the wire, so what I'm going to do is schedule them for a visit week 5 against TCU, and we picked Chester's 3 motivations correctly, but Tennessee and Georgia are just running away with it. With all of that struggling though, I've decided it's going to be a good idea to go after a 5-star wide receiver, and I haven't been able to fully scout Steven yet, but it seems like no other schools are pursuing him heavily right now. As we advance through these weeks, I'm excited to see what happens with that, and I want to bring back the rule to these 5-year rebuilds where I only hop into 3 games a season, so that's why we simulated at West Virginia. They weren't ranked until they beat us, but that makes us 2-2, and we've gotten off to a terrible start to Big 12 play. I'm more worried about this one against TCU though, because we have multiple dudes visiting, and we need some commits since we're starting to lose more battles. That brand exposure deal breaker is not going away on these 2 guys, but at least the 5 stars considering us. And just looking at some of these other prospects, it's probably in our best interest to schedule more visits, so we might do one week 8 against Houston or on this bye week. The only reason I like the bye weeks is there's no pressure for us to win or lose, so that visit should lead to getting guys like Adrian Rich at wide receiver, but then we're losing this one to Oklahoma. I've tried everything, even the motivations we sold them on had good grades, but that's just how things go sometimes. Let's make sure that we don't lose to TCU here at home. First drive's been going pretty well, but you might notice Jalen Daniels isn't in, and that's because he tore his Achilles and he's out for the entire season. Now we can either rock with Ben Easters or go down and start Isaiah Marshall burning his red shirt, but I don't think we should do that. I want to have him around in year 5 of this rebuild. rebuild, so we're going to use this guy instead. Devin Neal better be getting 50 carries a game now for sure. I mean, he's insane. But before the end of this first half, you can already see that his wear and tear is getting extremely depleted. I've used his spin move a lot. I've been trying to run it with him too. I think I just shanked this field goal to the left. And just like the last game we hopped into, we're about to collapse at the end. I tried my best in this. Believe it or not, Ben Easters is not a great fit for this playbook. And the fact that TCU is going to take us down on our visit week makes me sick, but we might make this grab here and it's dropped. That seems like it's going to be it for us. I mean, we do have all three of our timeouts still remaining, and Devin Neal is actually insane with this spin move. I need to spam it even more against these teams. He's going to get injured too by the time that I'm done using him, but I'm trying to thread the needle right here, and we're going for the 2-point conversion just in case we get a stop against TCU because I want to win this football game. I don't think there's any harm in going for this onside kick just because I've had some decent luck in recovering these, and if they have a kicker that can hit from there, they were going to win anyway, but our defense just isn't going to stop them in time. We've probably just disappointed every single visiting recruit, but we still got our first commit, and I'm pretty sure Ben's a gem. He might have 58 zone coverage, but as long as his development's good, he'll improve a ton, and I don't think we're going to bounce back against Arizona State. The fact that Kansas drops from an 87 overall to an 81 when you put them in Dynasty is criminal, because theoretically, this first year in the rebuild should have set us up for a lot of years of success. Now, just looking at the rest of our schedule, we have to win 4 of these games in order to be bowl eligible, and we're at the bottom of the Big 12, so we're not making the conference championship. Because you can start a freshman for 4 games though without burning their red shirt, I think that's what we're going to do later in the year, and mid-season Devin Neal is not on pace to have 1,000 rushing yards, so he needs to step it up. I'm very upset with how this is all starting to unfold. We're getting locked out with deal breakers now for championship contender, and the only way this increases is if we win more games. It's surprising to me that we've been able to sign a couple more 4-stars, but getting Kiki Cherry and Adrian Rich is a great way to start the next week, especially because as a gym wide receiver with 94 speed, he's going to be our best target for the rest of the rebuild. Our championship contender drops so far to the point though where we might lose these 3 battles for these guys, and I might have forgotten about Steven for a second, but it looks like no other schools are still going after him. Surely though, we'll beat Houston. They're 1-5, and I think we can assume that we did because we signed Owen Jewell. We'd lose Jason Ingold to Texas at the same time, but Kansas is 3-4, and I'm going to hop into this one at Kansas State. The Sunflower Showdown's my 3rd and final regular season game that I can play, but we're going to have some fun with it and make Isaiah Marshall our starting quarterback. We're also not going to give up on trying to find players that are still interested in coming to Kansas. And now it's time for the most important game of the season against our rivals. So far, Isaiah Marshall's not been too bad. He's hit most of the throws we need him to, and we can also use him in the read option game, which should work, but sometimes they still stop it. The arrow is shaking a lot, but I want to get on the board first, and that's what we're going to do. But approaching halftime, they'd make it 10-10, so we're going to try out Wildcat again. It seems like every time I run this play, it goes really well, especially with that spin. Of all the plays that I've tried in this video, it's one of the few that's generated some actual highlights for us so far in the season. So that's what you all get to see with Devin Neal about to lead us to the end zone. I still don't know if we're going to hit the 1,000-yard rushing total. I'd hope that we would with him. There's a flag on this play, and it's coming back. Of course we had to hold. Those are driving me nuts, but I'm never going to get to use a spin move like this again, so I wanted to keep going to it. And now we're stuck probably just settling for a field goal on this drive. That's unfortunate. It should be 13-10 at the half, assuming that we drilled it, and that was a super close call. They'd score next though in this 3rd quarter, and I think I'm going to try out Isaiah Marshall's speed. We're going to get to this outer edge, and we should just take it into the end zone, but he fumbled. The worst part is because this ball went out of bounds in the end zone, Kansas State gets it back, and we get no credit for that drive at all. We're also not even able to make a tackle. The longer it goes on for, the worse it's starting to look for us as we're going to drop the ball. And on 4th and 6 with a few minutes left, I'm waiting for the drags to get open, and that's still going to get swatted. Everything was clamped, but we would get the ball back one final time, and Devin Neal is about to be gone to the crib. The only issue is we just gave them 52 seconds, so you'd think they'd get in field goal range, but they threw a pick straight to us, and we're going to win this game. All we have to do is make sure that we're in a decent spot for our kicker to nail this kick, and Devin Neal has gotten free, but we still need to go down short of the end zone. I wanted it to be the final play of the game. I even centered it up so we could nail it, which means we're beating Kansas State in the Sunflower Showdown. That's our 67th series win, and Devin Neal definitely deserved player of the game. As you can see, all of that has risen our championship contender back up to a B, so Oklahoma might be catching us for the number 5 player in the country, but we're allowed to start recruiting him again. After advancing the week 2, we'd sign our first 5-star Steven Leber, and one of the challenges is sign a top 10 class, but right now we're down here at 65. The rest of this first year though is all up to sim till we get to the postseason, and ever since Isaiah Marshall became the starter, we haven't lost a game, but I need to pull him for these final 2 matchups. The reason for that is I still think it would be super hard to make the conference championship, and I want to play him in our bowl game, but for this to still count as a redshirt year, he can only be in 4 matchups max. I did just realize though, since Jalen Daniels had a season-ending injury, I could redshirt him, but I think he's gone to the draft anyway. And I hope the winning continues, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. At least through the process, we're picking up a couple more 4-star wide receivers. And this one's gonna come down to the wire for the 5-star linebacker. He'd choose USC while this receiver chose North Carolina. And I found this gem of a running back I really wanted, but Georgia's gonna take that from us too. With my 20 coach points, I want to put it into running backs, but that's such a limited position. So I'm gonna hold off for now because eventually we need to increase this motivator skill tree too. As I used more of my hours to keep scouting these players though, I found more gems, 2 of them at cornerback where they're both with the man-to-man tendency. And I think that's the only archetype you should go after with corners because the rest are super slow. That's just something I've noticed, but we picked up another 4-star, while one of those corners went to Clemson. I can also say that using Ben Easters was just a bad idea. We'd lose those games making us 6-6. But I think I'll be glad I saved the redshirt and we're never finishing that low in the Big 12 again. Now I could start to fire these coordinators and build out some of the ones that I want on my own. And that's exactly what I'm going to do after seeing that they're not really good at anything. We need someone that's going to make us run the ball more because Devin Neal's not getting to 1,000. And from a quarterback and receiving perspective, none of these numbers mean much to me. We're going to be losing all these receivers to graduation. And we all know that Isaiah Marshall is our true future of the program. That's why it's so important that we keep getting him more targets. And that's what we've done with these 4-stars. To my surprise, Tyler Shuck won the Heisman at Louisville. And we've made the Duke's Mayo Bowl versus Wake Forest. Now, if we're going to complete a challenge this year, Devin Neal needs to rush for almost 170 yards. And that's going to be a goal we'll shoot for, but I have to point out, it's early National Signing Day. I can see dev traits over in that bottom right corner from one of the comments. And it looks like we have some impact with 1 star and 1 elite being the 5-star recruit. Andre beneath him though is pretty good too because he's 6'5" with 92 speed. And even if this class doesn't finish with a high ranking, I think we filled our need at wide receiver. I've also found my 2 new coordinators, with one of them being a tactician and the other one being a motivator. So I'm pretty happy with the foundation that we're building at the moment, and it looks like Wake Forest is an 80. I'm just hoping that they don't have anybody fast on their defense. That's how we're going to get a lot of rushing yards. And I need to make sure that Isaiah Marshall's out there on the field too. This is his 4th game of the year, so the red shirt should still count. Now Devin Neal's going to make multiple guys miss. And you all aren't going to see too much of it, but it's going to be a long day for me if I want this kid to get a lot of rushing yards. We might only have 1 guy to beat right here though, and that slowed us down. I have a goal and I'm going to stick to it. I have tried to run this Wildcat over and over. We have finally gotten good blocks again. There we go. And let's just say it didn't take long for Devin Neal's wear and tear to get very bad. With -5 speed, it's going to be even harder to break off some big runs. That's why we need good blocking, and I feel like Wildcats are our only chance at getting stuff like this to happen. All the other inside zones and runs I've tried in this game just haven't worked as well. And after taking that sack, it looks like we're just going to have to go up 17-7 versus the Demon Deacons. Devin Neal's been racking up the rushing yards in the first half though, and I've tried everything I could in the 3rd quarter. Nothing's been working besides this. We got the right blocks again. We lost like 5 yards many times on that play, but this one's going to go to the crib. Wake Forest would still make a big effort in trying to come back and win the bowl, but they didn't, and Devin Neal had his best game yet. Isaiah Marshall's also still undefeated as a starter, and I don't think we're going to come close to getting this many rushing yards throughout the rest of the rebuild. That's why I kept saying my main goal for this season was to get this first challenge out of the way, and Texas A&M ended up winning the first 12-team playoff. Our coach prestige must have gone down though, because now we have 17 players that might consider transferring. So apparently Dakota Lewis and Caesar Magana were not helpful for good hires. I thought they balanced things out pretty well if I want to go down the recruiter skill tree, but just looking at this list of players leaving, they did not, and I have to try to persuade them all to come back. Also, don't forget, we're losing 27 seniors to graduation, so all of these guys are also gone. And I only have 4 persuasions that I can even use. I want to get this cornerback back. He doesn't want to come. But then I saw the most heartbreaking news. Isaiah Marshall is on here right now. Please stay at the program, and he has. That is absolutely massive. These other 2 I don't care as much about. We're not persuading him to stay. And then a 79 overall running back could be very useful, but he doesn't want to come back either. We literally just lost like 40 players, and all of these guys are going to want to leave next season. So I'm hoping the fact that we put this many players onto the NFL helps our program prestige raise a little bit. I still can't believe what we just went through though. This coach prestige thing's causing so many different deal breakers. And this transfer portal better treat us well. It looks like it might though, because the 2 top 10 players are interested in our school. Another thing you can do in this transfer portal window is go after prospects that haven't committed to a school yet that are still in high school. I have over 1,000 hours to spend, so that's something I can consider, especially since it's it's really hard to have success in the transfer portal when you can only put 50 points on almost every prospect. You can see that we're losing battle after battle, but that's partially my fault. I still have 40 coach points to spend and we're going to start doing it. I feel comfortable with our offensive line, so I didn't fill that up like I normally would, but we do need some running backs. And if I want to be as good as some of my other coordinators, I need to level up more. A lot of the transfer portal window has to do with just guessing on some of these players' motivations. And I would recommend scouting any of the 3 stars you go after that you want to walk onto your school, because guys like Philip Superstar were busts and they ended up not being an actual superstar. There's probably a reason that these guys aren't signed this late into the cycle. And I didn't plan on going after another quarterback until I found this guy. But before we continue rebuilding Kansas in college football 25, a word from Raycon, today's video sponsor. With school starting up soon again, it reminds me of back to school shopping, and an absolute must-have for the fall would be Raycon's everyday earbuds. These things have tons of new features like active noise cancellation and multi-point connectivity that allows you to pair with 2 different devices at once, and there's also now a quick charge function where 10 minutes of charging yields 90 minutes of battery life. If you charge them for a long period though, they'll have up to a 32-hour battery life, and the ergonomic design is probably my favorite part of Raycon's everyday earbuds, because as you can see, they fit the widest range of ears, and there's also some optimized gel tips on there that help with a cozy custom fit. I use Raycon's everyday earbuds whenever I'm in the gym too. Plus they offer a 30-day happiness guarantee, so what are you waiting for? Go see what all the fuss is about. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/board to get 20 to 40% off your Raycon purchase plus free shipping on your order, and let's get back to rebuilding the Kansas Jayhawks. Our quarterback room could still get shaken up. We're also going after transfer Walker White because he has some really good stats, and these are the types of signings that I love to see. We brought in 3 centers in 1 week, but they'll be moved around other spots on the offensive line, and now we have some more dev traits to look through. Cameron Lampman has star. We have another star with Connor Tollison. Those are what you want to see, another star with Walker White, and if there's any elites hidden in here, that would be incredible, but there weren't just a star with this quarterback. As much as I talked up Isaiah Marshall, he might not be our highest overall in a year or 2, and there's still the threat that he could transfer out at any time. I think George could actually be our starting quarterback with mental attributes like field general. This guy has a bright future, and I thought I was going to put Andre at wide receiver. I mean, he's 6'5", he is super quick, but he's a higher overall tight end than wide receiver, and we have a lot of them, so we're about to have a beast there. We did sign someone else, but keep in mind, this kid has 92 speed, and Adrian Rich came in as a 77 overall, just like Steven Leber, our best receiver, the 5-star. Some of these transfer signings were incredible too, like Connor Tollison's an 86, and after training results, this team's jumped up to an 86 overall, but I feel like that's a bit inflated. We have a roster size of 67 out of 85 players, and if I scroll through 10 of these guys, that's all that are above an 80, so the game can say we're an 86, but we're gonna have to start like a 75 overall at quarterback, and then our wide receiver room, we all know it's not great, so I'm not sure where they're getting that from. The motivator skill tree on our offensive coordinator might be helping us out a ton, and that's why I didn't want to go down this pathway, but I am going to max out the running back tree because we only have 3 on our roster. Recruiter could still be good, and also these running backs could be as well if Johnny Thompson Jr. or Harry Stewart III develops, which is a real possibility. This is a freshman with impact development, and his elusiveness is completely free to upgrade along with his quickness too. Skill caps are very important in this game, and I'm going to use them to decide our future starting quarterback. I think it might actually be Walter White. Just compared to Isaiah Marshall, he can improve things a little bit more because as you can see here, some of his stats can't get as high. He has a lower development, and his deal breakers coach prestige. The only thing I don't like about Walker is he doesn't have any mental abilities, but I might redshirt him and then use him in the final 3 seasons. We'll use season number 2 to see how good Isaiah Marshall can really get, and just looking at the Big 12 conference projections, we're all the way down here at number 10. We got some work to do here at Kansas, and I was so wrapped up in what player dev traits were last year that I forgot to check how high our class finished. So I'm hoping this season maybe we can reach that top 10 goal. That's one of our challenges. We're going to have another large class if we're going to lose 17 players to coach prestige, and I'm not sure how many 4-stars it would take to get a top 10 class, but I found a lot of 4-star gyms that I really want to get on this roster. The biggest one being Cody Moffitt, this running back. He is 86 trucking and 93 speed as a freshman, but we won't know our chances until we get a couple weeks in the future. Just looking at our schedule, we have a couple hard non-conference games. I'm not sure how we're going to do going into Big 12 play, but we are 5 overalls better than Fresno State, so I thought we'd win pretty easily, but we lost 41-10. I know Mikey Keene's pretty good, but I thought Isaiah Marshall would do better than this. Those are Iowa quarterback stats. And when it came to running the ball, Morrison wasn't much better. We have to be a little bit patient since we have so many new freshmen out there, but I can't risk losing this rivalry game to Missouri and starting the season 0-2. Just playing it instead of simming it's made the difference so far. We're about to take a huge lead over them if I could just find my way into the end zone, and that's the type of fight that I want to see out of Isaiah Isaiah Marshall. Being up by 3 possessions, we just have to be smart with it, try to find new freshmen like Adrian Rich. That was a bad throw. And if I didn't hold down the meter for that long, it probably would have been a touchdown, but we're still going to escape the pressure and almost get another tutty. I think if anything in this game, we've come out and showed that we can be pretty good, especially offensively, considering we just made the border war not look like a rivalry. Winning might be the only way I can increase my coach prestige. And we have to, considering right now there's 36 players at risk of leaving. Only half of those are seniors, and as we get into the top 5 of these players, we're going to switch over from sending the house to then hard selling. You just remove it with triangle. But sometimes if it's too early, you're going to have to make a guess at what his 3 motivations are. That's my only strategy for recruiting, and if I see players we're going to lose out on, I normally take them off the board. But again, I really want Cody Moffitt, so we're going to try to hard sell him. Of the 20 hard pitches I could choose from, there's only one that highlights his 2 interests. So that's how I always figure out the third, but we need to start scheduling players for a visit, and I think Utah in week 5 is a perfect opportunity. By then, assuming we beat Michigan State, we're going to be ready to start Big 12 play the right way. But once again, we've picked up another loss, and this time it wasn't even Isaiah Marshall's fault. Just looking at the rest of our schedule, we still have at least 3 top 25 teams we're going to have to face. So we better figure things out quick, and the playing style on this left guard is going to cause us to lose this guy to Kansas State. Either we're allowing too many sacks per game or we're not getting enough rushing yards per game. I'm not sure which it is. But either way, it means I need to find some more offensive linemen to go after, and it looks like a lot of them just aren't interested in coming to Kansas. They all have deal breakers if they're a 4-star. I'm a little bit happier though after seeing this huge signing, because we held off Alabama and got the best running back prospect that I think I've ever found on this game. At the same time though, we're in a spot where we might lose a battle to Rice for a 4-star, and beating a team like Utah could definitely change his mind. We have a lot of players that have come to Kansas for this game. I hope we win. And the fact that I'm playing this much better with this team instead of Jalen Daniels is insane. Going into halftime, we're about to go up by 24 points on the Utes, and I wish I could have played this well last year. They've gotten close to holding us on the goal line though, so we've resorted to Wildcat, and that's exactly what we needed. The fact that if we stop them here in the 4th quarter, they're still not going to have any points in this game is incredible, but they did get a huge play on 4th down. And they're going for the comeback where I accidentally didn't come out an onside recover. We should still pick it up though, and we didn't. I think we're still going to be fine, but the fact that it might be my fault we choke this is really embarrassing. And this 2-point conversion would make it a 1-possession game. We just have to make sure they don't throw into the end zone, and we wrapped up. Okay, this time I am prepared to recover the onside kick. No, come on, just hold on to that football. And I can assure you that we are going to take as much time off this clock as possible. We went with the triple option on 3rd down. It's not going to work. But by the time we punted it back to them and they got down the field, even if they do score, they have to recover an onside kick, and this time around, please hold on to the football. That is going to be the game. It wasn't pretty, but this is how you close one out, and that upset should cause a ton of players to commit. Even if he wasn't as good in the second half, I'm starting to really like Isaiah Marshall. And let's go ahead and see all the players that committed. These are 4-star gyms. I mean, their development traits are going to be great, but we did lose one of them to Texas A&M. Our coach prestige also isn't going up, and I see that Walter White might want to transfer out. So I'm no longer sure what the long-term plan is here, but knowing that we're in the same recruiting class ranking as Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson right now makes me feel pretty good. I'm also continuing to scout players I recruit, which I normally don't do, but we have found a lot of gyms through that, and if I could get this wide receiver, that would be incredible. I mean, we're already bringing in more 4-stars, and with another receiver in this room, we wouldn't need another one for this 5-year rebuild. There are a couple gyms at the top of my board though that I want to make sure we get, so I wish I could level up and get enough coach points to where I could upgrade this to tier 3 for our secondary. It's also time for us to start going on the road again, but at least after we get Arizona out of the way, a lot of these are at home, and I can only hop into one more. It's going to be hard to choose which one since we're tied for first place in the Big 12, but not hopping into that one might have been a mistake because we fall into 2 and 3, and 7 more players could transfer because of it. This is not going well. The only players winning Defensive Player of the Week are seniors, and at the moment, there's like 40 or 45 players on our roster that might not be there next year. We all know how painful it is to get these deal breakers too. It causes us to not get 4-star gyms, and if we could just beat Oklahoma State, that would turn everything around. Well, I'm afraid it's not getting any better. We just lost by 24 points. They were a top 25 team, but that's not a good look. Only hopping into 3 games a year though is what makes these games so difficult, and that's why it's a rule, because as an 86 overall, there's a chance I could win a championship with this team. It's hard, especially because I'm not the best on Heisman, and Sam McDonald is actually going to choose Notre Dame or Clemson. There's nothing that I can do to speed up this process either. Because of how we're performing as a program too, scheduling these visits might not be a great idea. We're not going to impress them, but we should at least bounce back at Iowa State. We got what we were hoping for, but the next week West Virginia took us down, and I think this game against number 15 Cincinnati's the perfect last one to hop into. All it takes is a win here to get our season back on track, so that's what we're going for. And with about 2.5 minutes left, we're just trying to hang on to our lead, but they're going to get a tutty. I don't know why our defense defense couldn't play that ball, but it is what it is. Our running back is very tired, but Morrison doesn't care. He is continuing to fight. And right before the 2-minute warning, we're going to go for a massive play that is going to get us inside the 30 or maybe even farther. Rich is going to break the tackle, and I think he's gone to the crib. I would have been happy with just settling for a field goal, but that play was even better, and it's a little bit of a problem that we're struggling to get a stop. All of that effort's going to go to waste if we're not able to hold the Bearcats. And on 2nd and goal, they're actually throwing instead of running, but they have it open. It's all up to Isaiah Marshall with a minute left on the clock to lead us down the field, but we're doing a pretty good job at finding the open receivers. I'm not sure what exactly field goal range is, but I'd imagine that we're already pretty close. And assuming we hold on here, we're going to have some really good wins this season, even though the rest of it hasn't gone the best for us. Cincinnati's calling timeouts. I'm surprised they didn't let us get in there, but it's clear this one's over. We're just settling for a field goal down the middle. And I think one thing that would be super cool for them to include in future games is if all our fans just storm the field. That would be electrifying, but they hit our kicker out of frustration, and we just declined the penalty for another upset win. Isaiah Marshall probably had the best game of his career, and one of the safeties decided to come to our school while the other one chose Notre Dame. We also have a lot of prospects that we want to schedule for visits, but it's against Kansas State, our rivals, so if we lose, it's going to affect us really badly. I'm really hoping for the best, but the Wildcats are 8-1, and I guess we'll see how many commits we landed. Judging by the fact that we got 3 of them, we might have done well, but unfortunately we lost by 20, and now we have to end our season with 2 road games. Also, the gym wide receiver with 94 speed and 88 spectacular catch chose Texas A&M, while Alabama's going to get monked from us because we're not a high enough championship contender. I'm not sure exactly what it would take to sign a top 10 class, but I might have to start going after some 3-stars. And they're just not as good, because even though this kid's a gym, he only has 83 speed. I also feel like I said at the beginning of the year, we're not an 86 overall, because we don't play like it. We just lost to UCF by 7 points, and Isaiah Marshall didn't throw for enough touchdowns. Now we're going to Texas Tech, who's 8-3, and I think we just lost this gym guard. It says he's locked us out. He's flipped on us. I've never had that happen before, but his pass block stats were so good. And now that I can see we're 4-8, I'm sure we're about to lose even more dudes. What an inconsistent season for Kansas. We lost by 24, but we beat some top 25 teams and finished at the same spot in the Big 12. Our lack of success has also given Kansas State some recruits, and considering both of our coordinators have F coach grades, I might just have to fire them. I think I've made a huge mistake though, because I completely forgot that Coach Stability was another school grade. All I know is the guys I'm hiring this year are going to have some better prestige, but that guy turned down our offer, so we have to find another offensive coordinator who doesn't have as much experience. These 2 coordinators are no different than the 2 that we just had, but their coach prestige was a little bit better, and I was hoping that could raise this grade, because total right now we have 27 players that could enter the portal. One of those dudes, who's probably gone, is the 5-star receiver I got to come to Kansas, and I'd assume that he'd want to play for a team that was in the college football playoffs. Stephen Leber was also our 3rd best wide receiver, with both Damian Hawkins and Adrian Rich playing better than him. So I guess Isaiah Marshall preferred to feed those 2 the ball, and these stats for a freshman are really good. He even had a few hundred yards running the ball, but you can see that our starting running back had half of what we had last year, and I don't think we're knocking off any of these challenges this season. The top 10 class is still up for grabs, but with this many players running for the door with no persuasion chance, we're about to lose a ton of people. And this pretty much includes all the freshmen I recruited last year, quarterback Isaiah Marshall, wide receiver Adrian Rich, and then some even better redshirt freshmen. I don't know what to do. These are all the great players I had. We only have 2 persuasions available, and it says there's no chance, so I don't know if I should even try. And then on top of all those losses, we have all of these seniors that are graduating, so our team's probably about to take a huge dip. Is it weird to say I'm a little bit excited though? I've never had a rebuild go downhill like this that quick. So many transfers, and Cody Moffitt has an elite dev trait. If we can pair him with some new transfers that we can get in the portal, we might be just fine. And at quarterback, you have to remember that we still have both Walker White and George, so we could start one of the 2 still. I am a little surprised that Steven stayed while Adrian Rich left though, and currently with the team that we have 55 players on our roster. To make matters worse, there's already 16 players that are at a risk of transferring for next year, and the only solution I really have is just sign more players, but we're losing them to other schools. Eventually though, I'd start to make some signings with the Jayhawks, and the biggest one had to be the number 8 linebacker in the country. At the end of the day, our class would have 23 players in it, but they weren't good enough to get us a top 10 class. We're down here at number 17, and I'm just going to go through looking for the development traits on all these players, seeing how many elites we have, like this tight end. Stars are also really good, even if he only has 83 speed, but there are a lot of normals, some impacts as well, and 1 final star. I know this is our roster before the training results, but it just doesn't look good right now. And even though he's an elusive back, athlete Tim Frost is gonna play somewhere else for us, like linebacker, because we have so many running backs already. I should have gone after more quarterbacks though. This is a big big problem to only have 2. And I don't know how this happens, but sometimes you can find a middle linebacker that's like a 70, and if you move them to the outside, they'll jump up like 8 overalls. We're currently in a 4-3, so there's not that much difference between these positions. And the fact that it's saying we're an 85 overall might be a joke. I mean, we have one player that is an 85 overall in itself. The rest of these guys are about 80s. But I do think if we can figure out a way to retain these guys by having a good season, we're going to have a fine future. I haven't even seen a roster size this low at 59 since I did an NCAA Football 14 rebuild. But at least we know a lot of them have good developments, like both of our quarterbacks. We're going to start Walker White. The real issue is just making sure they don't transfer out. And we seriously have to keep this kid because his skill caps allow him to get pretty much as good as possible. Then at running back, I could start Harry Stewart III, but I might just put true freshman Cody Moffitt out there with his 93 speed. And finally, we've been given some easier non-conference games like Middle Tennessee State and Arkansas State. In fact, the only ranked team on our schedule this season's Kansas State. So we better have a good season because that's the only way that we're going to be able to raise some of these school grades that have dropped pretty far. It looks like we still have about 7 or 8 4-stars that are interested in Kansas off the rip though. This is similar to last year. And even though it says we have 29 team needs, we're only losing 3 seniors, so we're going to maintain most of this roster going into the future seasons. There are a couple positions though, like cornerback and safety, where we need to get some depth, so that's why we're going to get tier 3 always be recruit and unlock there. And we'll see if it makes any bit of a difference. I'm a bit concerned because we can only go after 8 players with 500 hours available. We lost a lot of the hours that we used to get, but it's because our school prestige went down, which is why we have to win. I'm playing this first game of the season. All I'm going to care about is Big 12 games. And can I just say how much fun I'm having offensively with Walker White and some of these wide receivers? I mean, they have not stopped us once yet. Now, there's a chance they could right here, but I'm going to Steven Leber, and there's an interception. Of course, the one I show is a pick. Now I have to make up for it on this next drive. I missed the tight end read. I'm still going to throw it up to him. Why not? We're going to go for the aggressive catch, and we're down at the 1. That's going to allow us to use our staple to get into the end zone, making it 28-0. And we've been doing a lot better in the games that I hop into. Assuming they don't get into the end zone on one of these final plays, we're going to win this one by 24 points. And what a start to the season for Kansas football. My hope is by the end of the year, some of these players won't want to transfer as badly. But I'm only playing conference games, so we're about to sim the next few. So far, that's gone terribly, though, as we've lost both of these games by possession. And I'm not sure what to think because it's not like Walker White's turning the ball over. It is really hurting our school, though. We're not going to win battles for gyms. We're also getting deal breakers on the guys I want to recruit. And if we don't take down Arkansas State in a visit week where a couple of players are visiting, we're going to have almost nobody signed. Forget the challenges, too. I might fully fill this rebuild. I mean, so many of our best guys want to transfer out. And all I can ask for is we win with our 8 overall advantage. Well, we've signed 1 4-star so far, and then another one. We really needed a corner. But unfortunately, this middle linebacker chose Baylor. And thank goodness we actually played well, winning 38-14. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of the playbook, though, because we passed the ball 19 times while attempting over 25 rushes. Maybe we need to throw it, because our play style is clearly affecting what guys want to leave the program. Just looking at the rest of our schedule, though, besides going to number 2 Kansas State, we could win all these games. And I think I'm going to hop into the one against Utah after we play the Mountaineers. My fingers are just crossed for an amazing result here, and that's what we got, winning 36-33. Now we're ready to go on the road against the 5-1 Utes, and if we could just win this, we've set ourselves up pretty nicely to bounce back throughout the year. I don't think it's a stretch to say this is our most important game of the year, where we are about to score a touchdown on the first drive. And on our next drive, they've gotten us to a 4th and 3, where stepping up in the pocket has been a very effective thing to do. Walker White moves the chains a lot by doing that, and if we could just have some good blocks on this outer edge, we're going to have another touchdown. So we're getting off to that same high-scoring start that we did against UCF, especially since we keep picking up 4th downs. I really don't trust myself to hit a kick. At this point, it doesn't even feel worth it sometimes. I thought I threw a pick, though. And the fact that it's already 21-0 is nuts. I am going to try 1 field goal to end the half, though, just to see if I can hit it, and that was almost perfect, but it's still going to go right. So that opened the door for Utah to come back, and with a few minutes left in this one, we really need to finish off this drive. 3rd and 4. That Texas route looked like it would have been open, but it wasn't, so now I have to hit this field goal, and it's in. We've also gotten them to a 4th and 9 that they shouldn't convert on, but my user just wasn't good enough. And this time around, we're going with man-to-man coverage, which also got beat. Now I have to make sure that we run out the rest of the clock against the Utes. This is all my fault, but that spin move was filthy, and we're just 1 first down away from another win where we're so close. I have another plan, though, because they're pressing and I want some of these wide receivers to stay at our school. I'm going to try to beat them deep, which did not work. I wanted Steven to feel like he could put up some great numbers here. He can still get this jet touch pass to seal the game for us as he does. But because my clock management skills clearly aren't all there, they have a chance to actually tie this game up. I'm not sure how. I took took 3 straight knees. I think they still had 1 timeout left though. That was the main issue, and as long as we swat this ball down, we're gonna come away the winner in this game. So there you have it. Kansas is improving to 4-2, and hopefully we can still make the college football playoffs. I know we had a rough start to the season, but we're playing a lot better. And as long as we win the Big 12 Conference Championship, we have an automatic spot. We'd also make 3 more DB signings to our room, which we needed, including Melvin Waddle, a 5-star safety. But because I can only hop into 3 regular season games a year, we're gonna have to hope sim goes well for us in these 5 matchups before we take on Kansas State. I'm so excited for Melvin though. He's from Kansas City, and just looking at these stats, he's gonna be a monster. But there's a decent chance all the good news is about to end. As much as I enjoy signing more 4-stars, we still have a lot of players that want to transfer out, including our best receiver. But 87 overall TCU might not have beaten us if Walker White went off like this. Never mind, our defense gave up 52 points to the Horned Frogs. This is what I'm talking about. I have to build such a good team that we also perform well in sim. And you'd think an 86 overall team would win more games, but we all know that's a Mickey Mouse 88 overall. I mean, we're just starting to have some of these players improve. Unfortunately, over the next few weeks, we'd only win 1 of these 3 games, which means we're sitting at 5-5. And even if we beat Arizona State, we're not a playoff team. There were some guys visiting for that one though, so I'm hoping to see a lot of commits. Only 1 popped up, and I'll take beating them, especially scoring 56 points, but we gave up 38 points, and let's just see what Walker White's stats were. He's carried us to finish at this spot in our conference, but what would really elevate the program is if we won on the road at number 1 Kansas State. If we're ever going to sign a top 10 class, we're going to need some serious help, because right now we are just not there. And we all know what beating our rivals on the road, especially being ranked this high, could do for us. Everything would be elevated to another level, making up for the bad seasons that we've had, so I'm glad that we just snagged a pick on their first drive. And now it's time to work it down the field versus them, as we're about to break off a big run. I'm afraid we're still going to have a lot of players that want to transfer out at the end of the season, but I think we could convince some to stay with a win. And I will say their home field advantage hasn't really gone into effect in this matchup yet. We've been moving the ball just fine. We are on a 3rd and 10 though, so this could be trouble if we can't stay in bounds. And that's not what you want to see. I was doing my best to do it there. Now we're going to Wildcat on 4th and 1, and we just picked this up. Every single drive in this game is going to be super crucial, but especially this first one. And we keep getting chances to get them off the field, as I'm going to hit them short of the marker. 4th and 2 now. They're going back to throwing the ball, and it's the same play over and over. But them picking that up would lead to a touchdown, and then on their next drive, they'd get 3 points, so we find ourselves down by 3 against them. Early on, they weren't showing much resistance defensively, but ever since then, they have been doing really well until this play. And I was throwing that no matter what, so I'm just glad it worked. Now we have somebody open again, and he hangs on to the football. Hawkins clearly wants to win this game super badly, so I was going to roll out and throw it to him. But that works too, and on our next drive, we've got a little bit of an RPO here that should lead to a touchdown. Steven Leber just jumped his way over that defender. But we all knew that Kansas State wasn't going to make this an easy one to win. With a couple minutes left, it's all tied up at 21, and Walker White is not going to be able to get this outer edge unless he keeps on going. So we're going for it on 4th and 1, feeding Hawkins. He has been the guy throughout this entire game, and he's getting another big play for us. My entire goal is for this to be the final drive of the game. But in order for that to happen, we have to pick up this 3rd and 3, and we do. We've also had to deal with injury timeout, so it might be better if we just score a touchdown, where it took them like 30 seconds to respond back. That is sickening. We're about to go into overtime against Kansas State, and it's because our defense couldn't hang on at the very end of the game. I'm just going to throw up a prayer. I think I crossed the line of scrimmage, but it almost worked. Well, here we go. These are the rules for overtime, and they won the toss, putting us on offense first, where they almost got a pick. I can no longer make any hot route adjustments either. I'm just going to have to set my feet and make the throw of the century. But now we have to lean on our defense. They've gotten it down this far, and now we're about to get the pick. But we missed the ball, and now they're going to score. They do the same thing on their next drive, but if we could stop them on the 2-point conversion, that would have been huge. And this really puts the pressure on us to come out and get more points against them. We're in trouble. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to take here, but I should have hit the seam, because now it is 2nd and 17, and we got a long way to go where Hawkins Jr. is about to get us in. Now we just need the 2-point conversion. He is open, and we're going to triple OT. This has been an amazing game, but the thought of trading 2-point conversions back and forth terrifies me, and we got some good blocks. Now it's our turn to hold them, and we are going to let them catch it. So this time we're going to come out with some hard flats, and that worked. All we have to do is score here, and we're going to win the game. Come on, we got some good blocks, and Kansas has upset number 1 Kansas State on the road. That might go down as the best game in this entire rebuild, and Walker White better not transfer, because he has been insane. I really don't think he's on any of these lists anymore. Right now, we only have 12 guys at risk of leaving, and I found a scrambling quarterback that I really wanted, but even with solid pitches, Georgia's going to take him. There's also a lot of linemen that we need to make sure we still land, so we're going to go ahead, get Always Be Cruton for all of the blocking, and I'm hoping having 65 points instead of 50 will allow us to hold off on some of these battles. Well, there's one signing, that's what we wanted, and then we also got another receiver, but I'm not sure if he's going to play. We were actually pretty close to making the conference championship too. All we had to do was beat BYU, and this is crazy. Georgia's about to come in and take this 4-star as well. I don't think I should change up anything staff-wise though. I'm not sure why Malik Cherry's coach prestige has dropped so much, because we literally made a bowl and there it is. Bryce Hatchett chose the Bulldogs. The next week we'd lose this guard to Florida, but I can't blame these players for wanting to play for an SEC program. Of course, our bowl matchup has to be against number 18 Michigan. That's actually tough. So if we want to win, we're going to have to play super well. And now it's time to see what all of the dev traits are on the players that we signed. We got a star corner, which is really good, but I'm not seeing any elites this year. That's unfortunate, especially since these guys are probably the best ones that we're going to find. Going down the motivator path as a coach might be the move. With Walker White's stats though, he's looking alright, especially since he ran for this much on the ground, and look at what Harry Stewart III did as well. That's a lot of yards. I normally don't see that out of running backs, but I'm seeing a lot of deal breakers for playing style, especially since Niles Trimble was our #1 guy. And what I've noticed in Sim is it's never your #1 wide receiver that normally puts up the best stats. Now we'll just get this bowl game against Michigan out of the way really quick. And what I've learned is there's a pretty big difference between some of the Big 12 schools and some of the Big 10 ones. Michigan has absolutely dominated this game versus us. I tried to come back, but they didn't make it easy and we still got our score almost doubled. It's about time to find out which of these players are leaving us too, where programs that were in the playoffs are going to be a bit more appealing. Just looking through this list, I am not excited. It keeps on going down. We have 6 persuasion attempts though, and the main issue we've run into is we put no players onto the NFL, so players want to leave because of pro potential. I'm going to try to get Steven to stay, but we all know that he's gone, and the same's going to be true for this 86 overall linebacker. We would get a few successes though, one of them being from this right outside linebacker, one of them being from the elite dev running back, and then the last one being from an 83 overall right end. The fact that we can't seem to maintain anybody here though is starting to drive me nuts, and putting no players into the NFL seems to be the biggest issue. It's going to really limit the players that want to transfer to our team. We're going to have to scroll quite a bit to find the transfers that actually want to come to Kansas, and are we seriously starting down at 67? Just seeing that there's only so many players that we can go after, this is not good, but maybe it'll play out the right way. I mean, I'm still able to go pick up some high schoolers, and that's only in game. I'm not like some of these other creators, but we also have to start guessing some of these guys' motivations. The reason for that is it's the only way to maintain our lead. Some of these players I'm sure we're going to be trailing on, and what I like to do is make sure that I schedule visits as soon as I possibly can. It must have worked too if we signed the best transfer that was interested in us, plus a few other guys. We haven't lost a single player yet. The next week our success in the portal would continue, and I have never signed every player that wants to transfer in before, so maybe going down the recruiter skill tree isn't the worst thing. At the moment we're also very close to signing a top 10 class. It's almost like we just need to get a lot more 3-stars. So I've added all these guys to my board at the very last second, and we're going to see how many we can actually pick up. All you have to do is be in first place on a prospect for them to commit. They're going to end up being walk-ons, and I think we got a pretty good chunk of those guys. I mean, 31 players is more than I've had in any other class in a rebuild on this channel, even if a lot of them are 3-stars. So now it is time for the moment of truth. Did we complete a challenge signing a top 10 class? And we did. We were so close, but now we have 2 years to finish the rest of these. And I'll admit, I got lucky with one of the transfers because it turns out he had elite development. JUCOs still seem to be pretty bad though, because this junior came in at a 58. And I'm just glad that I got a couple athletes that can play at quarterback. We really needed that, but now it's time to see how much this team overall jumps up. We're an 85 right now, and going into season 4, we're going to be an 87, but the main thing I have to point out is we only have a couple of seniors up here at the top of this list. With most of our players staying around and both of our coordinators being motivators, we should improve even more. And it seems like no matter how big of a class I sign, I can't hit that roster size of 85 players. Going into season 4, unless Grimes declares for the draft early, we might be in trouble because there's 10 players that want to leave because of our pro potential, and that's the one downside that could still hold us back. We also don't have the easiest non-conference schedule that I was hoping for, which could make things interesting, and shockingly, Cody Moffitt hasn't jumped up in overall at all. He is elite dev, but I made the mistake in not playing him, and now he's probably going to leave because of his deal breaker. So we're going to rock with 94 speed Harry Stewart III at running back, since he still has other things he could improve in. At wide receiver 2, we have Damian Hawkins that has taken the lead. He's going to be wide receiver 1. And I think I'm going to just try to sign 5-stars, since those are the players that could still start for us next year. With only 5 seniors on the roster, we literally have 0 holes. So if they're a gem or a bust, it doesn't matter to me. We're just going to go for the top players. And maybe one day that'll translate to us being projected to win our conference, but 3rd place isn't isn't too bad. Only having 500 total hours to spend a week though is probably going to hurt our chances at getting a lot of these guys, because I can only put points on 7 or 8 players and we have to remove a lot of players that are already getting locked out. Now we have our first game of the season against Texas Tech, who's already lost a game. So I felt comfortable simulating it, and I really shouldn't have. We lost 24-17. I'm probably going to have to continue to simulate though until we get down to some of these later games like against Kansas State and Cincinnati, which is why we're just going to cross our fingers against Washington State. There we go, first win of the season against the Cougars, where Walker White threw for a few touchdowns, and I think Louisiana Tech's the easiest matchup we have. As for recruiting, we're starting to hit that top 5 period, so I'm going to have to guess on some hard sells, but we're doing really well, taking a lead on a lot of these 5 stars. But most players only have like one of their motivations unlocked, so I'm not looking forward to guessing there. On all of these other guys, it might just be better to wait another week, see what else comes unlocked. And in the process, we've improved to 2-1, but Walker White really wants to lead. I don't know why he would, it's for playing style, but he's been going off. I guess he didn't have that many passing yards, but I'm pretty sure he's been running it too. And we have to adapt to make sure he stays, so it looks like we do have to get our passing yards per game up. As much as I wanted to stick with the base Kansas playbook, we're going over to air raid so he can sling it. I've also learned that our hard sells are just not good enough for some of these 5 stars. We're going to lose the battle. But taking all of those other points, we can schedule them for a visit in week 8 against UAB. Now is when the real season starts at Houston, because we have to figure out how to start rising up the conference standings. And we got our win, but we have other tough matchups coming up, so I'm not sure which games I'm going to hop into. Realistically, I think I have to play at Colorado. We can't afford to lose now, but a lot of these 5 stars are coming on a visit whenever we play UAB, so I have to hop into that one too. I'm really hoping I made the right decision. I mean, Boulder's packed out. They're going to be a tough place to win at. But besides our 5-star receiver leaving us, our offense is pretty much the same as last year's, where I just threw a pick. I thought I could have gotten it over that cornerback's head, but mistakes like that are how we're losing this game right now. And before we got a huge interception, we were in a really tough spot. Now we're about to take the lead before the half, and that's what we do. Plus we'd get it back again with a minute left, but I think our other playbook was better than this one when we were using just Kansas's. We got pretty lucky there that they called PI, and I'm really not enjoying using the air raid playbook. I think I'm just gonna have to scramble for a huge gain here. We don't get much farther, but as long as we go up by 2 possessions before halftime, we'll be just fine, and that's a dot. All right, now we just need to beat man-to-man coverage. That didn't happen there, but we're gonna scramble in. Nobody's stopping White, and I'm hoping that we're able to maintain this lead for the rest of the game. Spoiler alert, we didn't. In fact, Colorado scored 28 straight, so we've been trying to come back as best as we can. But if we don't get into the end zone soon, it's gonna be really hard to do so, and that might be an interception. The fact that they didn't play that is amazing, but I really struggled to stop the Buffaloes in the 3rd quarter, and that's what worries me so much about getting one more stop against them. They stay in hurry up just to run 40 seconds off the play clock, which is not great game design, because now I just have to wait around until the 2-minute warning hits. If we're not able to stop the run a couple of times either, we're not getting the ball back. And it all comes down to this 3rd down where I missed the tackle. That is completely on me. Open field tackles are super hard to make though, and I'm not sure if we even have a chance in this game still, especially after that run. I think we have to hold them on this 3rd and 3, and they kept it with the read option, but because they didn't get the 1st down, we have a slight window of opportunity. The stadium pulse is through the roof, so there were 0 hot routes that I could have made on this play. I have to make sure that we get out of bounds as well, and we have just 16 seconds now to score a touchdown. It is cover 3 though, so we should have been able to beat it, and what was that pass? I do appreciate the details here though. This defender didn't have eyes in the back of his head. He was watching the entire time, and that means we're gonna fall to the Buffaloes by 6 points. That loss didn't stop 5-star Torrey Maples from committing though, and it's a shame that we lost another one to Duke. Just looking at our current board, the max amount of 5 stars that we could get's 5, but I think it's gonna end up being like 3. So the only way that's gonna really change is if we start winning a lot, and we must have beaten BYU if we got this 5-star corner to commit. We also got this 4-star wide receiver that I do need to talk about, because I want Terrell to start as a true freshman. He has 95 speed and takeoff, which is an insane combo. It's a real good day for Kansas though. Just being back in the top 25 is an achievement in itself, and the only reason we are is because we won by 4 points at BYU, but we have 3 top 13 games coming up, and I can only play 2 of them. I hate to say it, but I might have to not care about Big 12 play for a little bit, because since this is such a big visit week, I have to make sure that we don't lose. Even though UAB is a lower overall, I just don't trust this team. And at the end of the day, I made the right decision, winning 28-0. It was a pretty boring game. Walker White had a couple touchdowns. We had a couple defensive ones as well. And as a result of it, we've a better chance at signing a top 10 class. We've also flown up the polls. If we win this next one, we're going to be in a playoff spot. And like the rest of this rebuild, the most important matchup is the Sunflower Showdown. I even have Nico Stoner on a visit for this game, so that's the only way that we're going to beat out Texas and Oklahoma. And I'm really hoping that this game's not as difficult as it was last year, because as fun fun as it was to go to overtime, that was one of the most difficult games I've ever played, and on third down we get the sack. Plays like that are how we're tied with a couple minutes left here in the first half, but they're about to get the pick. And it's a little hard to believe that we actually just got away with that throw, but Walker White's not as fast as I want him to be. I'm trying really hard to not throw an interception with him, but we might have to try to beat them deep, which we did, and that is such a big moment in this game. I'm certainly still getting used to the air raid offense. I'm not the biggest fan, but if we can beat the Wildcats with it, then we can probably win a championship with it. That touchdown was the perfect way to end the first half, but as well as we've played, we've never been able to pull away in this game. With a couple minutes left, they're very close to taking the lead, but we're going to get the interception with Danucci and keep on running. You got to outrun number 73. There we go. Just the quarterback that could catch us now. Come on, that is such a huge moment. I was so nervous right there. I can't believe that we just grabbed that interception, because now with a couple of minutes left, we're going to be able to take a 2-possession lead. Just get in. All right, we might have to go back to the fullback dive. There we go. And that's all it took for us to take home the Sunflower Showdown trophy again. All I'm going to say is I'm helping out their series wins a ton in this rebuild, and now we have another stoner on this roster. I don't do it, but if that's what it takes to win games, since I have to sim these last 4, I'm all for it. And the most difficult of those is going to be this one at Nippert Stadium. It went really well though. We won 27-24, and that's moved us up to number 6 in the polls, so I think we could still lose another game and still make the playoffs. My biggest concern though is we're not a lock for the conference championship yet, and I'm hoping over the next few weeks we will be. During sim, something went wrong though. We lost to the Wildcats, and we lost by 14 too. It was just a rough game for our quarterback, I'm assuming. Now that he doesn't want to transfer, I'm going back to the Kansas playbook, and our last 2 games should be so simple. We're going to win one of them, moving up to number 13 in the country, but we still have a lot of players that want to transfer, and there's just no way 2-9 Oklahoma State takes us down. Nobody else is seeming to lose though, so we're not making the Big 12 championship, and I like to see that the playbook switch caused us to put up 49 points. I'm telling you, Walker White just plays better with it, but when looking at his stats, I noticed all the injuries that we're going through, and he's not going to play in our final game of the regular season. That worries me, and what also worries me is I just signed the second 4-star in this recruiting class, so even though we have all these 5-stars, we're nowhere near the top at all. We're ranked down here at 54. Quality over quantity must not mean anything, and there's no way we lost again. I guess it was only by 2 points and we didn't have our starting quarterback, but that matchup was for a playoff spot, and we're going to be headed into year 5 of this rebuild with a lot of challenges still left to complete. It's not looking too good. I just got overtaken by 3 different schools for some 4-stars, and I know he didn't play in that last game, but Walker White struggled this year, throwing 13 picks. His stats went down in the rushing game too, along with our starting running back, and I think the main issue is Niles Tremble's our number 1 wide receiver. We lost the 5-star to the portal. Even if we get a couple commits, this year did not go how I thought it would, and I'm very tempted to fire some of these coordinators and hire motivators, which means we'd have a better on-field performance next season. There's a decent chance that I'm going to regret doing that, but it could save the rebuild, along with me recruiting any 3-star that's highly ranked that would want to come to our school. Of all the challenges that are still left though, I think winning the Heisman Trophy is going to be the hardest one, and we have to make sure that we don't lose our bowl game like last year. By early National Signing Day, we only have 7 commits, so I don't really know how to feel about that. I also want to point out that even though this 5-star was a bust, he is a star development trait. That's a higher dev trait than this 4-star gym that has an impact. So sometimes it might be worth it to go after those busts, but we're 62nd in the country with our recruiting class ranking. This is actually going so bad. There's a chance I only complete like 1 challenge. And we fired our coordinators, so we don't have any for this game against Arkansas. I'm starting to think that maybe I should have never switched out of the air raid playbook, because even though I do really enjoy using this one, I'm not sure which is better for us, at least throughout a lot of sim. I mean, we only get to hop into a few games a year, and we're not going to get a 4th and goal. So it shouldn't be too surprising that with a couple minutes left in this matchup, we are losing, but I feel like we should have beat that corner deep. And having Tremble as our number 1 wide receiver just isn't good enough. The pass leads aren't working either. I even have to challenge that play because they're saying it wasn't a catch. And all we had to do here was drag just 1 foot, which we clearly did. I don't know what the refs are seeing, but this whole collapse of the season is starting to get really embarrassing, and we've now lost another bowl game. We would find our 2 coordinators though. They're both tacticians, and they'll either make us a playoff level team or not. We've finally had some good happen to us though, because again, we weren't losing many seniors, and there are 6 players that want to enter the transfer portal, but we have 8 persuasions to use, so this could change a lot. I thought we'd convince most of them to stay, but it was actually only 2 guys. But I'm not upset losing players like Cody Moffitt, because again, even though he had that elite development development, he almost never saw the field. It made sense for him to transfer. We've had like no players go to the NFL in the last 2 years. And after putting as many points as I can and a visit on all 3 of these players, we have 600 hours still left to spend. This transfer portal window is going to have to carry us if we're going to sign a top 10 class, and the best we can do is a 32 ranked player. And instead of going after all of these transfers, it might be more beneficial to go after other 3 stars. I don't know exactly how these rankings are calculated, but I think it's clear that we need more quantity than quality, and seeing players like 5-star Lester Faircommit is super helpful. He probably won't even start for us, but with a 4-star signing as well, we're up to number 36 in the country, and we just have to hope that we seal the deal on Barry Gentry. Well, I'm not seeing him on the committed screen, but it could still take another week, and it just seems like we need so many more players than what we have. LSU's gonna get him, so we're just gonna take these points and put it into more 3-stars, and signing a 4-star transfer might make a huge difference. I don't know what to think going into this final week, because there are some players that we're missing on, but we have climbed all the way up to number 17, and I think we just have to get as many 3-star walk-ons as possible. It looks like best case scenario, we're gonna walk away with this week with 28 different players that have signed, and I'm about to have a lot of these screens to click through. Unfortunately, I do see some ones we lost, and even though we have 5-star recruits, we only signed 24 targets, so that means I just skipped over it. I'm so nervous to check top classes. We finished at number 4. It all made sense at the end. That's where we should have been ranked before getting a bunch of 3-stars. I think you just have to clear a certain threshold, and that means going into season 5, I just have these 3 challenges left to complete. I also was messing around in position changes and found a couple really interesting ones, because we kind of needed an extra running back, so I clicked on Braylon Brightwell. He had 99 change of direction, and he goes up to an 89 when we move him over there. Then I found this right tackle, and he's only an 80. He's probably not going to start for us, but if we moved him to tight end, he becomes a 92. And I doubt his catching stats are very good, so this could be very dumb since we have somebody that's actually solid behind him, but we might move things around anyway. I'm just going for a high overall team that can win games in sim, and it looks like we're coming in at an 89. But just scrolling through the overalls of most of these players, this roster is 10 times better than what we've had in previous seasons. That's why I think the overall system kind of lies to you sometimes, but we also do have 2 motivators as coordinators. We have 2 92 overall running backs, and Jakyle Baker's come out of nowhere with a 99 speed that is going to be so overpowered. I'm just so happy to be in season 5 because it doesn't matter if players transfer after this, and we don't have to recruit since it's the final season, so I can spend these 20 coach points in other spots where I think I'm going to increase our DB room up to tier 2 right here. Even though both of our coordinators already cover that stuff, I think these are our weakest position groups where you're going to see some of the lowest overall players besides this transfer that we brought in. Just looking at our schedule now, it's not too bad. We should win those first 3 games before getting into conference play, and starting ranked as a top 25 team means we should have a good shot at making the playoffs. If we're going to complete the rest of the challenges, we literally have to. And I love when 4 tackles wins you defensive player of the week. At least we won though 37-6, and we forced their quarterback to throw 4 interceptions. Now we have Washington State, another opponent that we should take down, with 0-2 Louisiana Tech on the schedule a week later. That game gave Damian Hawkins a great chance to go off, and it should be no surprise that headed into Big 12 conference play, we're sitting at 3-0. Now I do think it's kind of crazy that not a single team on our schedule is ranked at the moment, but Cincinnati's not on there this season, and they've already lost twice, so we might need to be smart about the games we choose to play. I think TCU's got to be the first one. When I looked at the conference standings, they're one of the highest overalls, but I didn't want to play it because we're at home, and I feel like it should be pretty easy to win. Now I did forget that we have a 95 overall in at tight end. He has no receiving stats. We have to sub him out, but he should make for a really good fullback. And let's go to the jet touch pass, what I love to run against teams. It did get us to a 3rd and 7 though. It doesn't always work. You all see a lot of the ones that do. Using our speed though, we're going to pick up the first down and a lot more with that spin move. Our drive still hasn't stalled out either. We're moving it down the field, but this wasn't a great read. And this better be man-to-man coverage on 3rd down, but it's zone and we can't float it above that. Just from a drive though, I made the right choice in playing this game. TCU is going to be difficult, and we're going to act like I didn't just miss that field goal. I also want to throw this fade route, see what happens on it, but it didn't work. I am still upset that I missed that field goal. It was way too close to struggle with it. Fight your way in though. No, don't fumble the ball away to TCU. Maybe the 3rd time can be the charm now that we're down inside the red zone again. Come on, I just have to make one more guy miss. And I'm not sure if the jet touch pass is any better out of pistol than anything else, but we do get an extra blocker, which really helps. A little bit later in the game, we have a great chance to get a safety, but instead we're about to give up a huge run, and please tell me that we can catch this running back. Oh my gosh, that's really embarrassing. 99 yards to the house. The worst part is I actually believe that we were going to get a safety there too, and if we can hit them with this route, we're going to have a huge play. The mistakes are starting to add up though. That drop does not help us at all, and Walker White's actually pretty quick. Even though we know that, I don't use his speed as much as I should, and look at that route. Our converted lineman actually looked really good out there, and that's cover 0. You can't run cover 0 versus us. Now all we have to do is make sure we maintain that one possession lead for the rest of the game. But we all know it's not going to be that easy to do because we're going to drop the ball a lot, and we didn't catch the ball even though we were in front of it. Somehow they got the pick. The fact that we're still in this game after all the mistakes I made is just incredible. And we even have a lead with a couple of minutes left. But I think we all know what's coming. They're about to score. And that puts the pressure on us, even though they came out pressing our 99 speed wide receiver, who I need to go back to more often than I do. He somehow got caught on the 1 yard line though, which means we need a laser right here. And I'm running the speed option to this side. We have a wide receiver I could pitch it to last second, and how did we get that out? I can't even be impressed because they've driven down the field versus us so quickly. And we are just trusting our defense to hold on for a little bit longer. Come on, make the tackle on him and bounce. I am so nervous for these final seconds. If they throw us a pick though, that'd be awesome. And on 3rd and 6, they got a couple of routes out there on the field. We're guarding it all. So this game's just gonna come down to one play where we have to hit them short. We have to hit them short. We have survived against TCU. That was a close call. But Walker White had a pretty good game, and this should put him in the Heisman running. What did I say? It did. Currently, he's in 5th place on the watch. And I should trust him to take care of business at 82 overall BYU. Then we have the Bears on the schedule, so it's another easy matchup. But somehow, we always find a way to lose games that we really shouldn't, 21-17. I don't know what goes wrong with our offense. Some days it just doesn't do as well. And of the 6 games left on the schedule, I'm going to play these 2 road ones at Arizona State and at Kansas State. For what we can control, those are our biggest threats at making the Big 12 championship. And we need 2 huge games out of Walker White if he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. Arizona State's not bad either. They're 4-1. They have an 85 overall roster. So I don't mind playing them, especially because I don't think I've played a game in the Sun Devil Stadium yet. There's some really cool stuff in this intro, like that statue right there. And just looking around the stadium, they have a packed house for this game, but I'm not sure if they expected us to bomb them off the start, and I think that ball might be a little bit underthrown, but it doesn't matter. Keep on going, Baker. I don't know what he did to jump up to 99 speed, but it is a blessing because certain teams don't know how to guard it, and then other times they do. We're not winning as easily as you might think we would be because the Sun Devils defense has been pretty locked down, and they'd score 2 straight touchdowns to put us down by 7 points with just a few minutes left in this one. I'm nervous. I don't like all of these close finishes, and you know what? We're taking the top off of it. We haven't tried it enough because they locked it down a couple times. We'd also get a defensive stop to get this ball back again, and stepping up in the pocket, we just have to check it down to our running back. We've been using Braylon Brightwell as our 3rd down back. He is also pretty solid with spin moves like that. But what I wasn't expecting was to come out of the 2-minute warning with them pressing our fastest wide receiver. They haven't pressed him all game. You gotta love whenever the computer does stuff like that though. It really helps us out. We're about to get a sack on 3rd and 4, and they had no choice but to hurry it up real quick. They couldn't even call a timeout. Please tell me we're gonna hold them. What are we doing? We just got so lucky they didn't consider that a touchdown, but we can't run out the clock. And our only chance might be going deep considering they've come out pressing us. I don't understand why they would do that, but we have the speed to beat them, and we are not going to. We're not going to use that to win most of our games, but that's what Arizona State's given us a chance at doing, and they almost picked up that 4th and 11. Luckily, they didn't though, which means we're headed on with another win, and I cannot keep having these close games. They're giving me heart attacks. If it wasn't for Jakyle Baker in that one, we would have lost another, and I'm almost wondering if I should be playing the Sunflower Showdown. We've beaten Kansas State a lot, we've played them a lot, and I think Colorado might be the team that gives us issues at the end of the schedule. But I'm nervous because there's 9 teams with 1 loss in conference play, so losing another could cost us a spot in the conference championship. It might even cost us a spot in the playoffs too. It's not like we're that high in the polls with 1 loss, but I am going to take that risk, and I'm just going to sim to the first college football playoff bowl. That takes you to week 10, where I can see that we lost to Kansas State but beat Iowa State, and I'm really surprised that Walker White's still 2nd in the Heisman race. We're also in a 6-way tie for 2nd place in conference play, so our season's not over, but 1 more loss would do it, and we can only hop into one of these 3 games. Thankfully, we beat West Virginia by a lot, 37-9. Now we have to choose between Colorado or Houston, and both of them are 5-2 in conference play, so this is for a spot in the conference championship. The Buffaloes are an 86, while the Cougars are an 81, so you know which one we're choosing, and I'm just thrilled that our season isn't over. I never know exactly how these challenge videos are going to go. I've had some pretty good luck earlier on with them, but I just realized that Colorado has Steven Leber. We are playing against the 5 stars team today, and if we hit this pass, we're going to have the first touchdown of the day. That was terrible coverage. Steven's over on that left side of the field, though. We went with man-to-man coverage. We don't respect him at all. And that's because we haven't had any issues stopping him, but we have had some problems scoring. I am going to go back to that same play that we got our first touchdown on, though. The smart routed corner route made us beat man coverage really well, and we had the drag. It just hasn't been a great day for the Jayhawks. I'm about to throw an interception or maybe a laser. And on our next drive, we're going to hit a field goal to go up by 6, or we're going to miss it. I guess I should have been paying attention to the wind. Now Steven Leber comes around with the jet sweep, but we're all over it. So he took our special to Colorado, and they're going to hit their field goal. 17-all with a couple of minutes left. We have our backup quarterback in the game at the moment, and I noticed they were pressing, so I went with play action because I figured we could beat them. But what happened to Walker White? He strained his shoulder, so apparently he's out for a quarter. The fact that we have to finish this one out with our backup is a little bit worrisome, but that RPO worked wonders for us, and we are about to take it to the crib. I hate being stopped half a yard short, though. They normally blow up the run, and they're about to respond back with a touchdown of their own. We know what we have to do with a few minutes left on this clock, though. I didn't even want to take this kick return out. I've yet to have a kick return touchdown. And if there's anything Umodu does best, it is definitely running the football, so we're going to stick with it. He's got like 91 speed, but why do they not press all game? And then the second we need a clutch play, that's what the computer decides to go with. I mean, we should be hitting that throw all day for another tutty. I mean, this one was a real defensive battle before it's just opened up at the end. And I'm a little worried about how we're going to do in the playoffs if we can't get stops. It's like we're super solid until it comes to closing out the game. And that sack might have actually just won this one for us. We're going to get the interception down in the red zone, but I think they still have all their timeouts. Of course, they've come out pressing like they like to do whenever they want to stop the run, but we're going to use Wildcat and almost take a safety. That's what was going to happen there, or it was going to be a touchdown. There was no in between, but we went back to it again. This time we got good blocks, and I'm not sure who Heller is, but he is quick enough to outrun 54, and we are about to take a 2-possession lead on the Buffaloes. As long as we win our next one, we're headed to the Big 12 championship. And we got our revenge against wide receiver Steven Leber that thought it would be a good idea to transfer out of Kansas. There are some things that could be an issue, though. Our best rusher's still out for 5 weeks. He's a 90 overall, and then our starting running back just fractured his hip during a practice. We might have Walker White back, but I don't like the idea of simming this. And I'm pretty sure we have to win to get into the Big 12 championship. I have some good news, though. I can see that we're 10-2, but apparently we're just gonna have to play the Cougars again. This is how the standings shaped out, and the entire Big 12 was just terrible. So I'm not proud of the fact that we lost 2 conference games, even if they were on the road, but in the end, we did beat the Cougars by 18 points, so that's important to keep in mind. We should beat them again, but we also need Walker White to throw for like 5 touchdowns if he wants to win the Heisman. And I think win or lose, we're a lock for the college football playoffs. If I'm gonna complete every challenge, though, I need to win this just so I can take home that trophy. And it looks like Houston might score first against us. I don't love how effortlessly they've moved the ball down the field versus us so far, but you're not going to run the jet touch pass. And that was some of the worst ball carrier vision I think I've ever seen. On this 3rd and long, they're trying to scramble. So we held them to a field goal that they actually shanked, and we had that open. We picked a bad day to not start having success offensively until the 3rd quarter, but they were the same way. So with 4 minutes left, it's just a 1-possession game. I feel like we can hold them to another field goal, though, that they could hopefully miss. And there's no way that they run this ball on 3rd and 5. I was prepared for it, but they dotted us up instead. I don't love it, but we just need a game-winning drive, which shouldn't be too difficult. If they're going to run man-to-man coverage like that, we can beat it all day. And I'm not sure what it means for the playoffs if we've struggled like this against the Cougars, who didn't have a good season. Even though we are a 90 overall, this roster's not one of my favorites that I've built. There's a lot of weak spots, and kicker could be one of them, which is why we're not in a great spot to settle for a field goal here. And look at that cut up from Walker White. Walker White goes all the way. I don't care what anyone says. That is a Heisman level play. He deserves the Heisman. And I rarely sit here and wait for the instant replay of something, but I can't believe that cut up actually worked. He then got to that next level, shed a tackle, and just hit another level of speed. Houston probably got what they wanted, though, with us scoring that quickly, so now we have to force them to make a mistake and, come on, make the tackle. They're burning timeouts at least, which does really help us, but that didn't go well. And this is the last time that I'm going to try man-to-man coverage. Okay, we're switching. I never know what to run against the computer. It seems like the quarterback just sees all on Heisman. And I think the best thing we could do here is just send in a blitz. They're probably going to be terrified that we're doing it again, but this time we drop back into zone coverage. They take their check down, still 30 30 seconds left, and all we have to do is prevent them from completing a pass for like 13 yards here. Come on. Okay, that was my zone, but he missed it. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there, but I can't complain. I mean, he just didn't catch it. And I have never felt so blessed by EA. They've just handed us a Big 12 championship we might not have deserved. And I was hoping we would also get a Heisman Trophy with that, but it didn't happen. That means no matter what happens in the playoffs, I'm not going to complete every challenge in this video. And for the final copy of College Football 25 that I'm giving away, this one's not going to be to a random commenter. That's for Xbox people. I'm sorry if you're on PlayStation. I've given away plenty of those, but we did win the Quarterback of the Year award. And then we got another quarterback award, but a different QB won the Heisman. I don't understand how that happens, but we're going to have to get our revenge against USC in the playoffs. Because I think Walker White deserved it. He rushed for almost 500 yards and 4 touchdowns too. There's really not much he could have cut back on. Only 6 interceptions with 71 completion percentage is really good. And we didn't have a true wide receiver one. We actually had 2 guys that had over 14 touchdown catches each. Now we're ready to see how the college football playoffs plays out. And our first game's going to be against Arkansas. If we beat them, we'll play either Pitt or Tennessee. And I think we have to make up for the fact that Walker White didn't win the Heisman. A championship would do us wonders, but we've had a big issue when it comes to getting points today. So it is crucial that we at least finish off this drive with a touchdown, and they almost picked that ball. That would have been so bad, but we would eventually score, and with just a minute left, that was one of the only points we'd ever have. I mean, our defense has done well to only hold them to 10 points, but we need another stop. And I'm not great at getting these at the end of the game. The only reason we got the last one was because of a fluke, but this is a pick 6, I'm pretty sure. DiNucci with the tutty. I mean, after that, they would respond pretty quickly, but as long as we recover the onside kick, we're going to be fine, and we almost didn't. It was a weird game, but I'm ready to move on to the semifinals, then the championship. And Walker White's got to put up better stats than this. Now we're facing number 6 Tennessee, and it looks like there's a real chance we could play undefeated USC in the title game. But we still have to make sure that we take care of business against the 85 overall Volunteers first. As a Kentucky fan, I don't see how I could lose this game. But with 13 seconds left in this first half, we find ourselves down by 3 points. And I think they're going to hit another field goal. So far, they've scored on every single drive. But what are we doing hitting the kicker there? I had no control over that. They'd take their field goal, and I'm going to let it go into the end zone. But that's only because I know with 2 seconds left, there's still a chance we could throw up a prayer to our 99 speedster, and if this actually worked, that would be insane. They're going to get the interception instead. I thought we could even get a safety out of it, but we didn't. We have to go into the half with a pick. So I was hoping things would get better throughout the third quarter, but they really didn't. We still find ourselves trailing by a possession. It's been weird using this wide receiver as a running back. I've been trying to avoid the run as much as I possibly can, because even though he converted over as a high overall, he just doesn't feel as quick on the ground. With 4 minutes left though, I am hoping that we can beat them deep with that type of route, and we did. So now we need to get the 2-point conversion. The game recommended that we go for it, and they clamped us out. At least when they would respond back with their touchdown, they'd also not get the 2-point conversion, because now all we have to do is get into the end zone, and then we are going to have a nice lead over them. I think I might have to just scramble here and truck them. This game's just going to end with whoever can get the final touchdown. They're not guarding the flat. We have to pick up this though, and I really don't like the pressure of a 4th and 1, even if I had a great play call for it where we almost did not make that catch. That was super risky. I'm really not ready to trust my defense. We need to figure out a way to run some time off this clock first, and that should be a laser. It was dropped though. How do you drop that ball in that position? We should have had our touchdown right there. That spin move actually felt really good from Brightwell. Hang on. I've had that in the bag all game. Now we're just going to run down some clock. I'm waiting for that zone to not play it, and we are going to take it in. Now I'm a little afraid, but we should get this 2-point conversion over there. And if they somehow get a field goal in 18 seconds to send this to overtime, they deserve it. They're going 5 wide on us, but those short passes really aren't going to do that much. And we've got everybody backed up on this play where we did knock it out. I was really nervous for that one. I don't think they're going to get into field goal range. We should be moving on to the championship. Just make sure we swat this ball away. And that's exactly what I was hoping for. Marco performed the best out of any of our receivers, but we didn't get the championship that we wanted. I don't care if it would have been harder. I wanted to play against USC, but they lost this one by what, 10? And so much for Stephen Heflin stealing the Heisman Trophy from us. At least we're in a pretty good spot to redeem Kansas with a national championship, especially since Purdue, even though they're the number 2 team in the country, is only an 84. So let's just make sure that we don't almost blow this one like we did to Tennessee. That last one was literally so stressful, but we've been doing better so far. And you know what we have to mix in? If we want to win, we need to use the jet touch pass to the best of our abilities. Well, apparently we didn't get in with that play, but we should do that here. And guess whose offense has surprisingly been a pain to stop so far? Purdue's. They started shutting ours down and then just keep running the ball. So this might not be as easy of a championship win as I was hoping for, but we're going to get the interception in the end zone. Waddle has a couple guys he has to make miss, and come on, keep on going, use your speed. Not only would we score after that, but we'd also get the ball to start the third quarter where I was hoping to score again. And it might not have come on that drive, but it should happen right here with the aggressive catch. I have learned how to throw the fade route, and that felt so good to score off of, but this one's still gonna come down to the wire. Their DBs just haven't been that easy to beat deep, but for the first time today, I think we're gonna have them actually, and we do. That's an easy tutty. Now it's just on our defense to get the game-winning stop, but that's not coming how I would have liked. And after they'd eventually get in, the pressure's back on us where this halfback screen is going to work, assuming the spin move gets a lot of yards. The spins are literally so fun on this game whenever you have somebody that has a high spin move. That pass is also almost perfect. So we're really starting to open things up offensively, and I'm trying to do my best to not throw an interception, though we might have this over the top. Come on, defense. We need to make Purdue make a mistake. I don't want it to be us that does. We have to stop clicking on. And here on 3rd and 6, I'm stuck on the defensive line. We're not going to get our hand on that, and they've actually beaten us over top. We can't even make a tackle. Are you kidding? I even called a timeout out of frustration. I did not take that very well. But we got the game in our hands right now. It's up to us to see the open receivers, and they let Baker go free. How on earth do you not press all game, but then you do it at the end? This has been such an eventful championship. Their quarterback even almost tried to scramble, but instead he delivered a laser, and this is what happens when I play every snap of every game. We just struggle to get stops, but we could actually do it. It's 4th and 7 for the championship. Please, get the interception. That is it. Kansas has won it all. Take a knee in the end zone. What on earth are you doing? I have been waiting for that moment. We have done it. And the Jayhawks get to enjoy this celebration, but I didn't win the Heisman, so I didn't complete every challenge. I still think Kansas fans will be happy with me. I mean, we won a championship. And it's really all thanks to Walker White, who we picked up in the transfer portal. I hope whoever got the code when I flashed it on screen enjoys it, and leave some punishments in the comments that you'd like to see in the future if I fail a rebuild. These are the players that got drafted into the NFL. Of course, Walker White did. But that's going to wrap up this 5-year rebuild, and if you want to see more content from me, there's plenty of options around.